My name is Margaret Collins. I'm 59 years old, a widow, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Oregon. For nearly 2 decades, I've worked as an office manager at a law firm. Nothing flashy, but stable. Stability became my lifeline after my husband passed suddenly, leaving me to raise our 2 kids, Emily, my daughter who just turned 32, and Luke, my 29-year-old son. I built my life around making sure they never had to struggle the way I did. Every choice, every sacrifice, every late night, it was all for them. Then last Tuesday, I opened an email that changed everything. It was from Emily, no subject line. Just her name sitting in my inbox. I smiled at first, assuming it was a quick update about her wedding. We had spoken about her big day a few weeks earlier. I had already given her $30,000 to help secure the venue, book the photographer, and lock in the florist she adored since college. But when I opened that email, the smile disappeared. Mom. That's how it started. Not Dear Mom. Not Hi Mom. Just a cold, clipped label. Emily explained that after much thought, she and her fiancé Andrew, along with his family, had finalized the guest list for the wedding in Napa Valley. And their decision was that it would be best if I watched the ceremony online through a live stream rather than attend in person. Andrew's mother, she added, was particular about the guest count and wanted to keep things intimate. And then came the line that felt like salt rubbed into an open wound. If you want to be a part of it, you can watch through the Google Meet link we've created. Should be just like being there. LOL. I stared at that screen for a long time. My coffee went cold in my hands. I didn't cry. My hands didn't even tremble. Something deeper happened. Something inside me shifted. Like the ground cracked open, but somehow I was still standing. I replied with 4 words. Sure. Enjoy your big day. No emotion. No fight. Just a quiet withdrawal. And I knew those 4 words would echo louder than any screaming argument ever could. That was the moment I stopped pretending my sacrifices meant anything to my daughter. That was the moment everything began to change. The drive to the office that morning was silent. Oregon's spring air carried a chill, but I barely noticed. My mind replayed the same question. How did we get here? For 18 years, I've poured myself into this job at Caldwell Walker Law. It's not glamorous, but it gave me stability after my husband died. I remember standing in front of our old washing machine, bills spread across the counter, wondering how to buy groceries and still pay Emily's college deposit. Back then, I didn't think twice about giving up weekends, extra shifts, vacations, even birthdays. I kept telling myself, there will be time for me later. But later never came. Every dollar saved went to Emily and Luke. When Emily changed majors twice, I paid for the extra credits. When she took a short-lived job across the country in New York, I paid her deposit and her flight. When heartbreak crushed her at 27, I flew out, made her tea, and reminded her she wasn't alone. When Luke and his fiancée wanted to buy a house, I co-signed the mortgage and wrote the first $10,000 check. No hesitation. I never kept score. That's what mothers do, right? But Emily's email made me feel like a transaction. Like I had been useful, but my expiration date had arrived. Back at work, my boss Robert stopped by my desk. He's one of those rare men who remembers birthdays and how you take your coffee. He noticed something was off. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, setting a latte on my desk. I wanted to tell him the truth, that my daughter had just disinvited me from her wedding. But instead, I forced a smile and said I hadn't slept well. He didn't push. That small kindness, coffee and silence, nearly undid me. After all the noise in my head, it reminded me that I still existed, that I still mattered. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed. Emily again. Call after call. Voicemails. Texts. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. This isn't funny, but I didn't listen. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because for once, I thought, maybe it's time to stop being the one who always answers. Maybe it's time to stop playing a role in a story where they won't even let me on the stage. That afternoon, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to do something far more powerful. I was going to act. After work, I didn't drive home. I went to First Federal Bank. Carlos, the branch manager, had known me for years. He'd helped me set up college funds and adjust retirement contributions. Mrs. Collins, he greeted warmly. What can I do for you today? I need to cancel a wire transfer, I said calmly. The one to the Napa venue? He asked. Yes, that one. He hesitated. It hasn't processed yet. Just in time. But, are you sure, Mrs. Collins? We're talking about $50,000. I nodded. I'm sure. $50,000. That was the amount I had planned to send on top of the $30,000 already gone. $80,000 for a wedding I wasn't even allowed to attend. I signed the cancellation forms and walked out of the bank without a second thought. By the time I got home, there were 9 missed calls from Emily. 2 from Luke. 1 voicemail said only, "Mom, please don't do this." I turned off my phone. In the kitchen, I uncorked a bottle of red wine I'd been saving since Thanksgiving, a holiday Emily was supposed to spend with me, but canceled last minute. "Work," she'd said. I poured a glass and sat on the porch as the evening sun dipped low. The world around me felt still, birds chirping, a neighbor's dog barking, while inside me years of memories surged. All the birthdays I planned alone. The holiday dinners where I waited for calls that never came. The shoes I never bought. The vacations I postponed. The car I drove for 14 years. And the cruelest thought of all, Andrew's mother, a woman who barely knew Emily, yet her opinion outweighed mine. She decided I didn't belong. That was the moment I stopped seeing myself only as a mother or a widow and started asking, what about me? What do I want? And the answer was simple. Peace, dignity, a life that didn't revolve around being useful to people who only showed up when they needed something. Around 9 that evening, the doorbell rang. At first, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I opened the door, Luke was standing there, still in his office clothes, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, his phone clutched in one hand like a weapon. He looked uncomfortable, shifting on his feet. "Mom," he said, stepping inside before I could speak. "Why aren't you answering your phone?" "Emily's freaking out." I closed the door quietly. "Hello to you, too." He sighed and started pacing. "She says you're not coming to the wedding now. That you're being difficult." I let out a sharp laugh. Difficult? For refusing to attend a wedding I wasn't invited to? Luke winced. "You know how Andrew's parents are. They're footing most of the bill. They're traditional, Mom. They want things a certain way." I raised an eyebrow. Traditional? I already paid $30,000. I was about to give $50,000 more. "That's not tradition, Luke. That's a transaction." He froze mid-step. "Wait, you were sending another 50? "Was," I corrected, sipping my wine. "Not anymore." His face drained of color. "Mom, they're counting on that money." "The venue, the food. Not my problem anymore," I said evenly. His voice rose. "Of course it's your problem. She's your daughter. And I'm her mother," I replied softly. "A mother who was told to stay home and watch from a screen." Luke dragged a hand through his hair, frustrated. "You always make everything about yourself." That was it. That was the moment something inside me finally broke. "Get out of my house." His eyes widened. "What?" "You heard me. Get out, Luke." "Mom." "No." My voice was steady. "I've given everything I had. I'm done being the villain in a story I wrote with love." For a long moment, he just stood there. Then he turned and walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. Quiet, but it sounded louder than any slam. I stood in the middle of my living room, heart pounding, and to my own surprise, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The next morning, my phone lit up with 43 missed calls and a flood of frantic texts from Emily. At first, the messages dripped with guilt. "Mom, why are you doing this? This is childish. We need to talk." But as the hours passed, her tone shifted. "The venue just called. The payment didn't go through. We're going to lose everything if it's not paid by tomorrow. Andrew's parents are furious. They said this proves they were right about you." And at 3:24 a.m., one final line. "I don't understand why you're doing this to me." I smiled into my coffee. Of course, she didn't understand. Emily had grown up surrounded by my sacrifices, so seamlessly woven into her life that she never questioned them. The comfort, the security, the stability, it was all invisible. She just assumed it would always be there, that I would always be there, but not this time. Later that day, while reviewing contracts at my desk, another email appeared in my personal inbox. The subject line read, "Please don't ruin my wedding." I clicked it open. "Mom, I know you're upset about the livestream situation, but this is extreme. We've already lost the venue deposit, and if we don't pay the remaining balance by the end of the day, the caterer walks. Andrew's parents are beyond upset. They're saying this proves you can't be reasoned with. Please don't do this. We can talk about you attending the ceremony, but we need the funds first." There it was. Not an apology, not even reflection. Just a negotiation. As if my presence at my own daughter's wedding could be bartered, bought, or sold depending on how generous I felt. I closed the email without responding. At noon, Robert appeared at my desk. "Lunch?" he asked. That new Italian place just opened. Normally, I would have declined. Habit. But something in me had shifted. Maybe I just wanted to sit somewhere I wasn't expected to sacrifice or explain. So I nodded. I'd like that. Over pasta. Robert told me about his grandkids, how exhausting but beautiful it was to chase after them. His eyes softened as he spoke. Then he looked at me and said gently, "Forgive me, Margaret, but you seem lighter today." I surprised myself. I told him everything. Emily's email. The disinvitation. The money. The bank. Luke's visit. When I finished, he didn't judge. He didn't try to fix anything. He simply said, "Sometimes the hardest part of love is setting boundaries, especially with the people we've given the most to." He reached across the table, gave my hand a gentle squeeze, and added, "I think you did the right thing." For the first time in a long time, I believed that too. That evening, when I pulled into my driveway, the porch light flicked on automatically, and I noticed someone sitting on the steps. As I got closer, I recognized her. Sophia, Emily's best friend since 5th grade. I hadn't seen her in years. She stood quickly, brushing imaginary dust from her coat. "Mrs. Collins," she said softly. "I'm sorry to drop by like this." "It's fine," I said, unlocking the door. "Would you like some tea?" She followed me inside, her eyes scanning the walls like she was remembering echoes of her childhood. I filled the kettle before finally asking, "Emily sent you?" Sophia hesitated. "She's a mess. They lost the venue. The florist dropped out. Andrew's parents are threatening to cancel everything. She's panicking. She knows she messed up. She just doesn't know how to fix it." "Is that why you're here?" I asked. "To fix it?" "No," she said softly. "I'm here to ask. Is there anything she can say or do to change your mind?" I paused. Would an apology change the way it felt to be excluded? To be reduced to a bank account? To be told I wasn't welcome unless my money was? I handed her a mug of tea. "No," I said quietly. "There isn't." Sophia's shoulders sagged. "Not even if she apologizes?" "Words are easy," I said, "especially when people are desperate. But the people who love you, they don't wait until you cut them off to finally see you." She nodded, looking down into her cup. "I get it. Even if she doesn't." She didn't stay long. She didn't argue. She just hugged me gently before leaving. And in that moment, I closed the door not just on Sophia, but on a version of myself I had long outgrown. The wedding never happened. Not as they had planned. Without my contribution, they scrambled. But everything was booked or too expensive. Eventually, they settled for a small backyard ceremony. Just a few relatives and Andrew's parents. I wasn't invited. And this time, I didn't need to be. Weeks later, Emily sent one last email. A messy mixture of apology and justification. I read it once, then archived it. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done, because there's a strange kind of peace in letting go. Not with rage, but with clarity. For the first time in decades, I woke up without wondering who needed something from me. Without bracing myself for guilt, disguised as love. I made a new rule for myself. If my presence is negotiable, then so is my effort. Now, I go to work. I read novels. I joined a pottery class. I share dinners with friends who see me, not what I can provide. And I've learned something I wish I had known sooner. You don't have to burn yourself just to keep others warm. If this story resonates with you, share it. Comment your thoughts below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Because sometimes, the strongest kind of love is the one you finally give to yourself.